So, ataxia is a neurological sign consisting of a lack of voluntary coordination of muscle movements, as in walking. So, it also affects the way I walk. I can't coordinate running. I can't jump rope, can't coordinate that. And I dance like an old man, which is cool. I like dancing like an old man. Now, I used to do martial arts. And last year, I started doing martial arts again. I did jiu-jitsu. And I used to throw jump kicks and stuff, but now this is what I got. Yeah, I'm still that uncoordinated. So, ataxia refers to a lack of coordination of movements. But I also have dysarthria, which is slurred speech. And I think that these are related. Here's why. I slur, I stumble, I have terrible balance. Do you think I'd pass a roadside? So booze affects the cerebellum first and foremost. And roadside tests assess cerebellar function. In fact, I began practicing roadside tests as therapy. Now, I live in the self-proclaimed music capital of the world, Austin, Texas. Live music capital of the world, Austin, Texas. And so I go to a lot of live shows, right? And just about every time that I go to a show, the bouncer either stops me on the way in or out and goes, "Whoa, man, I think you've had enough." And I have to explain my condition, that I have damage to my cerebellum. So some of you may know about the cerebellum, and some of you may know very little about the cerebellum. But the cerebellum is a key player in every ocular motor movement. It's Latin for little brain, but with 3.6 times as many neurons as the cerebral cortex. I mean, excluding the brainstem, that's 75% of neurons. That's more than that. It's kind of unbelievable. That little guy has 3.6 times as many neurons as that big guy. Yeah, I had to find out where they came up with this number. So I found a study. A neuroscientist by the name of Susanna Herculano-Husel came up with a very cool method to measure neurons. Basically, she dissolves everything but the nucleus and then counts how many in a solution. She turns it into what she called soup. Neuron soup, I guess. And counts the neurons on it. And able to measure neurons. And it says right here, on average, a ratio of 3.6 neurons in the cerebellum to every one in the cerebral cortex is maintained across 19 mammalian species, including humans. With so many neurons, you can imagine how important this little guy is. Originally, it was thought to just coordinate motor control, but we're now finding out that it does so much more. This title says it all. Cerebellar control of visceral responses. As you know, the viscera refers to internal organs, like the cardiovascular system, the gastrointestinal tract, or my number one concern, speaking to you for 2 hours, the bladder. Yes, I do have less control over my bladder. And no, I do not wet the bed. It's not that big a deal. It's just when I have to go, I kind of have to go. So as you can see, the cerebellum handles coordination beyond just movement. In fact, it is possible that every thought goes through the cerebellum. So yes, the cerebellum coordinates movement, but we're finding out that it also coordinates thoughts. This article is titled "The Cerebellum in Cognitive Processes." supporting studies in children. And it says a relation of dyslexia and attention deficit disorder. It finds a relation of dyslexia and ADD with cerebellar functions, which is supported by structural abnormalities in neuroimaging. When I think of ADD and dyslexia, I think of uncoordinated thought. And of interest to all you visionaries, ocular motor syndromes of the brainstem and cerebellum. It says the brainstem and cerebellum contain many neuronal types that play a critical role in eye movement control. So as a patient, I beg of you to learn more about the cerebellum. It may be Latin for little brain, but as you can see, it's kind of a big deal.
Someone take me to a doctor, then take me to a church. Someone take me to a doctor, just take away this curse. Someone take me to a doctor. Someone take me to the hearse.